Good morning, everyone. Namaste. I'm Frank Zamalan. Dr. Terry Zamalan and I want to welcome you to the Waking Way Spiritual Community. We're a spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. We believe that there's a golden thread of truth and love that winds its way through all great spiritual traditions. And whatever tradition you happen to belong to, that tradition is part of the golden thread. All of us have come to this place in our own path. We've been walking it in our own way. And now we're here. Something has called to us, something has resonated for us, and it has brought us to this place today. I was thinking back on my journey recently and how remarkable it's been and how serendipitous it's been that I wound up here. I had despaired for many years of finding a religious or spiritual community that worked for me. And when I found it, I found that I'd known about it all along. And I'm sure that's true for many of you. Um, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who said, I can't believe I found a place where people believe the way I do. That's the gift of Awakening Ways. We all came here on different paths. When we leave here, we'll all leave in our own unique way and go on our own unique path. But for right now, this sacred moment, we're all here together. And so I wish you all welcome home. We've been waiting for you. Please join me, if you will, in a prayer of invocation, of evocation. For truly, we don't have to invoke God. We don't have to bring God in. We have to bring him forth from within ourselves. That divine essence, that spirit, that consciousness, that mind, that is God, is and is creator of all things. It exists as all things within all things. All living beings, all sentient beings are a spark of that fire. And not a part of that fire, but all of the fire. Not just one of the flames, but all of the flames of that creative essence are in us and as us. That is the truth for me. It's the truth for each and every person on this call today. That being so, I know and I declare that as Delan speaks, he speaks from that place of infinite wisdom and knowledge that the divine is. Our musicians play from that higher harmony, that higher place, the divine harmonies of the Most High. Each of us hears exactly what we need to hear. And each of us goes our way today, blessed by something we didn't know before or had forgotten we knew, blessed by having been together, and blessed by the divinity within us. We are so blessed. I give thanks, and I say, and so it is. Amen.
I bless this Good morning. Gosh, what a great song. And it's good to be reminded of where we're going to go back on June 20th for Father's Day. I can't wait. Today, this morning, is the last Sunday of our Seed of Awakening of Pathways. So I want to start by asking you, what pathway are you on? What course have you set? You know, as humans, we're built to act in the world. We're like action figures, right? And we're like, you've heard this before, we're like ships in the ocean. We need to sail. We need to move. We also need to go back into the harbor. But, you know, once we're resupplied and sort of spiffied back up, it's out for more adventure, more life. Even if as we grow older, we sort of look a little bit further ahead for what the weather might be like. So, you know, in biblical times, the Jews managed to escape slavery in Egypt. And that was a rough deal. They got out of Egypt. But then when they got to what seemed like this vast, barren desert, and they were more than a little bit intimidated. So they asked Moses, you know, how the heck are we going to navigate this? And of course, Moses answered, well, don't worry. I've got the latest version of Google Maps, you know, right here on my tablet. So we'll be all right. I was hoping maybe someone would laugh, and I can't hear you. So, but when I thought about pathways, the first thing that came to mind was the Camino de Santiago. It's the pilgrimage to this place in Spain. And, you know, it's kind of gained in popularity recently. And it used to be in the Middle Ages a thing for people from all over Europe to make this journey. And for them, it was a spiritual journey it was a pilgrimage to the great cathedral in Santiago, Spain, where the remains of the Apostle James are said to be buried. And people made this journey in hopes of having a spiritual awakening, to have some greater insight into the reality of their lives. The purpose of the journey, walking the path, was to actually be changed in some fundamental way. And, you know, this journey was both a real endeavor, but it's also, the pilgrimage is a metaphor for our lives, because we're each of us traveling through time and space, whether we realize it or not. So here's my question. What should we take? What should we pack for this journey? What should be in our suitcase? And the first things that came to mind were things like, you know, food, clothes, water. You know, we'd want to plan it out. We'd want to make our reservations, make sure that all the details are in order. But at some point, when we're planning, at what point does it become a vacation rather than a pilgrimage? And what distinguishes a tourist from a pilgrim? You know, it occurs to me that as a tourist, we sort of want to escape our daily lives, our everyday life, experience something new and different, only to return to that same life when the vacation is over. We want to come back and be the same person we were before we left. But the problem with that is that when we get home, we have all the same problems we had when we left. And oftentimes we get back and it's time for another vacation. So the pilgrim, though, is aware that they'll never be the exact same person that left. There's something within each of us that wants to be transformed by this journey all the time. Do any of you remember the TV show Kung Fu with David Carradine? He says, "Oh, snatch the pebble from my hand, grasshopper," right? And what struck me about that show as relates to this is that, you know, the character is traveling around the Wild West. It's a really rough time. He is definitely looks like an outsider, and all he has with him is a little bedroll and a walking stick and a pouch. But he has everything he needs for every situation that he encounters. You know, I take more than that with me every time I leave for work in the morning. and if I leave my cell phone at home and get down the street, I freak out. I've got to come back and get it. So, you know, it got me thinking, you know, what kinds of things should we really have in our toolkit here when in this life? And, you know, the first thing I thought about was faith. Ernest Holmes said, "We must know definitely and consistently that the universe is for us and not against us." When I think about my own faith, I realize that it's set and reset by the practicing, you know, coming back again and again to the recognition that I'm more of a process than a thing. That as spiritual beings, we're spiritual beings in a physical world. And I agree with Ernest Holmes when he says, we can no more do without spirituality than food, shelter, and clothing. So definitely we need to pay attention to our faith. The next thing I thought of was forgiveness. You know, it's a pretty challenging thing, forgiveness in our lives. And sometimes it strikes me how challenging that is. I was doing a guided loving kindness meditation not too long ago. And the guide said, bring to mind someone with whom you have an uncomplicated relationship. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. You know, my most intimate relationship is with Denise. So it's kind of complicated. You know, how about my relationship with my parents? It's pretty complicated. My kids, I want the absolute best for them, but it's complicated. You know, I even thought about my dog, Happy. And it's like, you know, I got a pretty uncomplicated relationship with her right until she charges at the people walking down the street like she's going to bite their head off. So it's interesting. It's interesting that that's the case, that these relationships we have are complicated. And I think it's because we're kind of complicated ourselves. So here's the challenge. Here's the pilgrimage. To use this as a starting point to untangle yourself from that person. Before we can truly know the best for someone, we have to untie ourselves from the problems or difficulties with them. And that's what opens up the space, the freedom to really wish them well without any attachment. So before we can freely give, we have to forgive. And I think that's important. The next thing I thought of to bring was gratitude. And we talk about that a lot here. We already know a lot about gratitude. But here's something that Denise turned me on to a little while ago. And it's by a guy named Greg McGowan. And Greg McGowan says, if you focus on what you have, you gain what you lack. And if you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. I'm going to say that again. If you pay attention, if you focus on what you have, you gain what you don't have, what you lack. And if you focus on what you lack, you lose, or you seem to lose, you lose sight of what you already have. It means that you can't focus on one thing and produce another. Emmett Fox said this another way when he said, give your attention, which is your life, to God rather than to limitation. So gratitude is having the mental discipline and at the same time openness to see what's right in front of us, what's already here. Denise and I recently went on vacation to Maui, and we mostly went to snorkel and just get away. And the visibility in the water wasn't the best because it had been raining and there's a little bit of swell, ocean swell, but we were making the best of it. And we managed to see turtles every day, which was a blessing. And we saw how they rest when it's rough from the waves and murky from the rain. They find these little ledges at the bottom, ledges in the rocks and in the coral, and they just kind of tuck up under there and sleep or meditate or whatever it is they do. And then about every half hour or so, they float up to the surface and breathe and breathe. And then they just kind of go back down and rest some more. Well, one day after a really particularly good snorkel, we kind of motioned to each other, all right, it's time to go back, to the beach. And as we turned around, we nearly bumped into this giant turtle. It was the biggest one we'd seen yet. And we had to back up to keep from running into him. And so we followed him. We floated with this big turtle for what seemed like a half an hour. And I mean, floated. We really had to slow down to catch what he seemed to be communicating to us. And that's what he was saying. If you pay attention to what's really here, right here in front of you, you'll see the inherent beauty and perfection in everything. Jesus taught principles rather than dogma, universal principles that we can apply to our lives, that can be applied to anyone's life in any time, in any kind of changing times. And these times that we've been going through and that we're coming out of have changed us. We're not really built to shelter in place and to social distance. We're social primates. We need connection to each other and to our lives. So I want to encourage you, and myself included, to get out and walk, but to do it in a slightly different way. Make it a pilgrimage. Now, I can have quite a bit of resistance to doing this. I get home from work, I'm tired, it's pretty windy out there, it's kind of cold. There's a million excuses not to do these things. And one of the things that I'm committed to is really getting out and connecting with things as things are opening back up here. I'm not going to take that for granted anymore. But here's the challenge I have for you. I have this friend named Franklin Wakefield, and he lives at the base of one of the Seven Sisters. It's the one between Hollister Peak and Black Hill as you're coming into Morro Bay. And Franklin has this friend named Timo who used to run around the base. There's a trail around the base of that mountain. It's a few miles long. I don't know exactly how long. And Timo would run for exercise. And every time he would run that trail, he would try to beat his time. He'd time himself and try to do it faster and faster. Well, a long time ago, when I lived out on that ranch with Franklin, we were walking that trail, and he said, I think Timo has the wrong idea. I think he's got it exactly backwards. Every time we walk this trail, we should try to go a little bit slower so that we catch everything. He goes, by the time I'm 80, it'll take me all day to get around this mountain, but I'll catch everything. I won't miss a thing. We can take in all of it because your attention is your life, and you get more of everything that you give it to. As these things go, just last week, I came across a poem by my current favorite poet. His name is David Whyte. And of course, it's called The Road to Santiago, right? For the road to Santiago, for your pilgrimage, for your path. And it's a really short poem. It goes like this. For the road to Santiago, don't make new declarations about what to bring and what to leave behind. For the road to Santiago, for your pilgrimage, don't make new declarations about what to bring or what to leave behind. Bring what you have. You were always going that way anyway. You were always going there all along. And what he's talking about is our essential self, our divine self. Bring what you have means bring what you truly are. Remember what you truly are and what you already have. So whatever path you're on, and wherever you are along that path, bring yourself to the full awareness of this moment. Simply stop and recognize that right here where you are, God is. You don't need to travel anywhere to experience the full measure of goodness, of peace, and of love. And you already know what that feels like. You already know exactly what that feels like. So this is what the divine is telling us through David Whyte and through Franklin and through the turtle, is that your pathway from here on out can be you living your life in the full awareness that you are always home, not because of where you are, but because of who you are. You don't need to wait until you arrive somewhere else to be happy. You can be happy all along the way, no matter what happens. Namaste. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wow.
Namaste. Delon, absolutely wonderful, fabulous. You know, I feel like I've been swimming with the turtles now. I feel just so calm and slow and quiet and peaceful, and that was exactly what I needed to hear this morning. I really did. So thank you so much for that. It was beautiful. And thanks to Jimmy and to Soulshine for the music this morning. Fabulous as usual, with Delon wearing several hats this morning as a musician and as our guest speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you to Ron. You know, you guys don't know what goes on behind the scenes, you know, before these things kind of come together in the mornings. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of kind of organization to make it happen. And then things go sideways. And then you have to think on your feet. And Ron and Frank as well. They managed to get this our Zoom up and running every Sunday, and we're grateful. We're grateful for that. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Thanks to all of you for being here this morning and for being with us each and every week and for supporting us in all of the many ways that you do. It allows Awakening Ways to be here, to be a thriving, successful spiritual community. And, you know, this community is necessary. It is very, very necessary. It's necessary in this time on the planet, and it's necessary where it is. It's necessary where we are in this, you know, in North County, in San Luis Obispo County. It's necessary that we have as many new thought spiritual communities as we possibly can to kind of get that seed planted within people about how to live a positive, life-affirming life. And so thank you for supporting Awakening Ways and allowing it to continue to be here. I'll be speaking next week. And a reminder that we will be returning to the pavilion on June 20th. We don't really know what the restrictions are on that. I'm assuming, I think we're all kind of assuming that initially it's going to be asking people to wear masks and maybe wear masks and do the social distancing and the hand sanitizers. I mean, that was the initial, what we got initially. As the days and the weeks roll by, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that unfolds to see if that changes. We're still planning on continuing to we're planning on broadcasting live on that Sunday and having Zoom on that Sunday as well. So broadcasting live from the pavilion as well as being online on Zoom on that same Sunday. Knowing that this is new for all of us, and so everyone will be patient if there's a little snafu. But we're looking forward to it. I think it's this fabulous evolution for all of us. And you know that Frank and I are retiring, and our last Sunday is June 27th. And that means that this spiritual community will be evolving as well in new ways with someone new as their senior minister. And who knows what wonderful things lie in store in the future. Susan, is there something that you want to share with us about Susan is the chairperson of the search committee. That's what we're calling that, right? The search committee. And so she's agreed to make a little report on this, what's happened each week. So Susan.
So a lot of progress this past week. So I mentioned last Sunday that we were able to get our announcement into the Anton newsletter, which happened. And then this past week, we were able to send emails out to all of the Anton centers and all of the Anton individual members. We sent emails. We also sent actual letters through the mail to the centers. Also, Angelo Pizzello from the Emerson Institute asked us to forward our letter to him, and he said he would send it out to the ministerial students or graduates from Emerson. And now the next thing the committee is working on is we found a website. It's called Find a Center, and it covers New Thought churches across the whole globe. And our little committee is going to focus on California, and we've kind of batched it out. So what we're going to try to do is send letters out to the centers that have, a larger gathering group, maybe 100 people or so, because there's a lot of little churches on there. So we're fast at work on this. And what I would say to every person listening to my words, just take a minute every single day and know that the perfect person is receiving our letter or our email and saying yes to us, because we know that that's true, that God already knows who our new minister is. And so we just need to trust that. And I just ask everybody to do that every single day. Just send a little trust out there.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for that. It's nice to see the progress of how things are kind of rolling out, isn't it? It kind of gives you a sense of forward movement, and that all is well. All is well. A reminder also that, well, not immediately following, but at 11:30, we're having our celebration of life for David Burt. It's going to be on Zoom. You should have received a separate email for that has the Zoom, what do you call that address? Link, the Zoom link that you can click on and join us at 11:30. David was with us for 13 years, and we really want to celebrate his life this morning. So we hope to see as many of you as possible there at 11:30. Other than that, I think we're good. We've had a fabulous morning, perfect, wonderful morning. And I know that the day will be just as beautiful. And so if you will, just join me for a moment as we close with a benediction. And just allow your eyes to softly close and take a deep breath and feel yourself floating with that giant turtle in the warm, warm water. And feel that sense of peace and that sense of deep well-being. That sense of gratitude, of gratefulness for this life that we have been given, and for all that this life holds, the joys and the sorrows, the ups, the downs, all of it comprising to make this life our life. And today we declare it to be good and very, very good. And we celebrate it. We celebrate all that it is and all that is on its way to us. All of that good. Knowing that Spirit, God, the Divine, the Holy One, is ever present in, around, as, and through us. What we know is that more and more good is truly our heritage. It is what this pilgrimage is all about, uncovering and allowing that good to unfold in our lives more and more each day. And so today we say yes to that. We say thank you for this, and we celebrate what is yet on its way. Life is good, God is good, all is well, and so it is. Amen.